Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The last few weeks of this program, we've been speaking about the etiquettes of eating, the etiquettes of having a proper meal in Islam. And we mentioned why Islam would be even interested or concerned with the food that we eat, and on top of that, how we eat our food, the etiquettes of eating our food. So it's not just what we eat, but it's even how we eat our food. And we mentioned so far, if you've been counting and if you remember, we mentioned 5 etiquettes so far that Islam stresses on before we eat our meal. And we said that there are many benefits. Each one, we highlighted the health benefits, the spiritual benefits of every single one of these etiquettes if we make them a habit in our lives. So we mentioned 5 so far. Today, inshallah, will be the last of this series. And next week, inshallah, my respected father will be here and he will speak during the Sunday program. And I believe he will have his own topic, inshallah, for you, idhnillah ta'ala. So let's speak about the 6th etiquette of eating food. And this is all, remember, before you begin. And some of it will apply to while you are eating and after you finish. So the 6th etiquette that Islam teaches us to make a habit. You see, these may be difficult, they may be too much once we put them all together. But if we make them a habit, then they will be very easy. It will be second nature. Now, when we eat, we already have so many habits that we do, so many etiquettes, manners, health-related habits that we have made it into our second nature. We don't see it as burdening anymore because it's just become part of our life. Some of these we may have already done before, and others we should try to incorporate in our daily lives, inshallah ta'ala. So number 6, this is, I think, one that you all know, inshallah you all do. It is recommended in Islam, before you begin your meal, we said in addition to start with grain, a bit of salt, and end with salt, and we spoke about why and what and when and all of that, is to recite the name of Allah before you begin. Recite Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim before you begin your meal. And in Islam, it's recommended to recite Bismillah before you do everything. You begin in the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Before you go out to work, before you cook your food, before you drive, before you go to sleep, before you do anything, always have Allah Azza wa Jal on your mind, but specifically before you begin your meal. So begin with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and once you end, say Alhamdulillah. Praise Allah Azza wa Jal. Thank Allah for the ni'mah that He gave you, the blessing that He gave you. Now, when it comes to Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, many times we'll forget. I'll sit down, I'm real hungry, I'll start eating. The traditions tell us, if you forgot to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in the beginning or before you began your meal, say it whenever you remembered. Even if you're 3/4 done, 80%, 90% done. The point is, say it at least once before you finish your meal. And concerning Alhamdulillah, it's recommended that you say it out loudly, not screaming such that you start alarming people, especially if you're in a restaurant. People will think that you're about to detonate or something, right? But say it out loud when you are sitting with family members or others. Why? Why do you think that is? Ahsantum, reminding. So many times people will forget, right? But when they see someone saying Alhamdulillah, they'll be reminded, especially your family members, like your children, your siblings. So instead of directly telling them, say Alhamdulillah, the Prophet and the Imams used to always, when they end, they used to say Alhamdulillah loudly so everybody remembers. So this is a good tradition that we keep. Now, what are the benefits of saying Bismillah before you begin and Alhamdulillah once you end? Number one, the first is obviously the reward that Allah gives you. Something that easy, brothers and sisters. Just say Bismillah. It'll take you literally 2 seconds. And Alhamdulillah will take you another second and a half, 2 seconds. It's very easy, it's very light. But however, the reward that God gives us just for doing this, just for making this a habit, is unbelievable. In a tradition, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells Imam Ali, he tells him, Ya Ali, إذا أكلت فقل بسم الله. Oh Ali, before you eat, say Bismillah. وَإِذَا فَرِغْتَ فَقُلْ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ. And when you're done, say Alhamdulillah. All praises due to Allah. And then the Prophet tells Imam Ali of one of the benefits of doing this. He says, فَإِنَّ حَافِظَيْكَ لَا يَبْرَحَانِ يَكْتُبَانِ لَكَ الْحَسَنَاتِ حَتَّى تُبْعِدُهُ عَنْكَ. The Prophet tells Imam Ali, if you do this, then the two angels, either the two angels or some other angels that Allah has entrusted of what? Of taking care of you, of monitoring you, taking care of you, watching out for you. When you say Bismillah, before you begin, Alhamdulillah, when you end, they will write good deeds for you from the moment you start your meal until, there's two possibilities, what the Prophet means. A, until you finish your meal. So you're having your meal, you took 30 minutes. You just said one Bismillah, Alhamdulillah. Whatever happened, as long as there was no sins in the middle, they will constantly write good deeds for you. So that meal of yours will be a ibadah session. It's as if you worshipped Allah for 30 minutes. It's as if you were sitting and reading Quran. It's as if you're reciting Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, dhikr. So look at the benefit. Don't just see it. It's Allah, one dhikr in the beginning, alaykum salam, one dhikr in the end. Once you do these two, Allah gives you the entire session is counted as worship of Allah. How easy is that, brothers and sisters? If I am the laziest person on earth, this is perfect, brothers and sisters. For me, it works. Because just give God 4 seconds, He'll count the entire hour, entire half an hour, your entire meal. God will count it as worship. There are so many easy things that Allah Azza wa Jal rewards us in a magnificent way. It's disproportionate in an unbelievable way. Another example is, if you do wudu before you sleep. You know, if you do wudu before you sleep, how long does wudu take? How long? A few minutes. Maybe you're wasting too much water. Wudu should not take more than a minute. Literally. More than a minute. You can even do it in like 40 seconds. Should not be taking you a couple of minutes. So a wudu that will take you 30 seconds to 1 minute. Do it before you sleep. You're brushing your teeth. You're getting ready. Just add another minute. You added 1 minute, but God adds how long? God adds to your book of a'mal. Your entire sleep is considered as worship. Your entire sleep. This is a hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam where he told his companions this. He told them, sometimes you'll be too tired. We're lazy. We don't feel like worshiping Allah before we sleep. We don't feel like praying Salatul Layl. We don't feel like, or we're tired, we have work. Yeah, that's fine. The Prophet says, I'll teach you an easy way, a shortcut. Do wudu before you sleep. That night will be like Laylatul Qadr. And you're just snoring on your bed. How beautiful is that? Do you know, brothers and sisters, on the Day of Judgment, how regretful we will feel, how awful, when we realize such easy things that had such a huge reward, we just didn't care. We just let it pass by. We're going to regret it because it was just so easy. 1 minute Cost me nothing, but the benefit is unbelievable. And there's a tradition where the Prophet asked his companions once, he asked them, who amongst you spends every night in worship, the whole night? Nobody could dare say yes, except one of them by the name of Salman al-Farisi. He said, me, Ya Rasulullah. So the companions complained. They said, Ya Rasulullah, Salman is not being honest. Every night he spends the whole night worshiping. Every night is Laylatul Qadr for him. What is he, a robot? Doesn't sleep? The Prophet said, go and ask him what he meant. They went and they asked him, and he said, I heard Rasulullah say that whoever does wudu before they sleep, Allah will count their entire sleep as worship. Every night before I sleep, I do wudu, and Allah counts the entire 6, 7, 8 hours, however much I sleep, as ibadah. What's your excuse for not doing that? You're lazy? Well, this is perfect for lazy people. You're tired, you don't have time. This is exactly what I need. Very easy, but the reward is great. So anyway, this is another example. Say Bismillah before you begin, and Alhamdulillah when you end. The Prophet tells Imam Ali, the benefit is from the beginning of your meal until the end, the angels will write ajr for you, as if you are worshipping Allah. So we said there's two possible meanings. That was the first. The second possible meaning is even greater. حَتَّى تُبْعِدْهُ عَنْكَ. Not until they will write good deeds, not until you finish your meal. No, even longer, until that meal is flushed out of your body. How long will that take? Maybe another 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, right? So you ate that meal, and until you digest it and it flushes out, don't think too much about this. For 3, 4, 5 hours, whatever it takes, that entire time, it's as if you're worshiping Allah. It's unbelievable, brothers and sisters, how generous Allah is. Remember the dua of Rajab, Ya man yu'ti al-kathira bil-qalil. Allah is the one that gives such a great return for nothing, literally nothing. For giving him peanuts, for giving him just crumbs, he will give you unbelievable reward. In another tradition, the Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّ الْمُؤْمِنْ يَشْبَعُ مِنَ الطَّعَامِ وَالشَّرَابِ فَيَحْمَدُ اللَّهِ فَيُعْطِيهِ اللَّهِ مِنَ الْأَجْرِ مَا لَا يُعْطِي الصَّائِمِ. The Prophet says, if a believer says Alhamdulillah after their meal, Allah will reward that believer more than the one who fasts, like a recommended fasting, the entire day, but forgets to say Alhamdulillah after they have their iftar. So imagine, two people. One of them spent the entire day fasting, 14 hours, let's say, 15 hours. They ate their meal, they forgot to say Alhamdulillah. They will be rewarded. I wasn't fasting. I was having my breakfast, my lunch, my dinner. But I just said Alhamdulillah after I finished. The Prophet says that second person will get more reward than the person who was fasting. What an easy shortcut. Imagine you do both of them. You fast and you say Alhamdulillah. The reward is unimaginable here. So you're eating, but you're receiving more ajr than someone who is not eating, who's fasting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember, this is the recommended fasting. So this is a habit that we have to, it's very easy, it's just we have to remember. Maybe put a notification, right? Put a notification that every day when I'm eating my 3 meals, I say Bismillah before I begin, Alhamdulillah. If you do it for a couple of weeks and you're mindful of it, and you remind yourself, after a couple of weeks, even maybe less, maybe after 10 days, it will become second nature. Ba'd khalas. You will remember it all the time. No one has to remind you anymore. Now, when it comes to drinking water, there's another hadith that tells us something similar about drinking water. The hadith is narrated from the 6th Imam, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. So the Imam says, whoever says Alhamdulillah after they drink water. Something as simple as this. I drink water. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. How easy was that? سبح ذلك الماء له ما دام في بطنه إلى أن يخرج. That water will do tasbih for you until it leaves your body. So even the water that you drink will become an agent that works for your favor, not just by quenching your thirst and providing you whatever your body needs to stay functioning, but even spiritually. As long as it's in your body, it's as if that water is doing tasbih. And the Quran says everything does tasbih, right? Everything in this universe is in the state of glorifying and praising Allah, but we don't understand it. But we cannot comprehend it. We cannot feel and see it. So something very easy, brothers and sisters, when you drink water or anything, any liquid, say Alhamdulillah, and khalas. You just set that liquid and it's just doing tasbih for you. Another recommended act when it comes to drinking water is to remember Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. It is recommended every time you drink water to remember Imam Hussein, to remember the thirst of Imam Hussein. There's a tradition that a man by the name of Dawood al-Riqi, he says, I went to visit Imam al-Sadiq one day, and he drank some water in front of me. He says when he drank water, it wasn't Muharram, it wasn't Ashura, it was just a normal day. He says after he drank the water, I saw his eyes became tearful. And then he said, he spoke to me. He told me, Ya Dawood, the narrator, لَعَنَ اللَّهُ قَاتِلَ الْحُسَيْنِ. May Allah curse those that killed Imam Hussein. فَمَا أَنْغَصَ ذِكْرَ الْحُسَيْنِ لِلْعَيْشِ. He says that it's so difficult to enjoy life, enjoy a nice cup of cold water once you remember Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You just feel so bad that Imam Hussein was deprived from this water, his family. And then he said, إِنِّي مَا شَرِبْتُ مَاءً بَارِدًا إِلَّا ذَكَرْتُ الْحُسَيْنِ. He says, every time I drink water, and the Imam says specifically cold water, I remember my grandfather Hussein. And then the Imam makes it clear that everyone should do this, not just me. He says, وَمَا مِنْ عَبْدٍ شَرِبَ الْمَاءِ. And anyone who drinks water, فَذَكَرَ الْحُسَيْنِ وَأَهْلَ بَيْتِهِ. And you remember Imam Hussein and his family. You say, Assalamu ala al-Hussein. That's simple. وَلَعَنَ قَاتِلَهِ إِلَّا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. Listen to what Allah gives you. Imam Hussein is very dear in the eyes of Allah. You drink some water throughout the year. Even if you don't do it every time, do it once in a while. But remember, if you don't make it into a habit, you're going to always forget. So the Imam says, whoever drinks water and then remembers Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, Assalamu ala al-Hussein, or just say, Ya Hussein, إِلَّا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَهُ مِئَةَ أَلْفَ حَسَنَةٍ. Allah will write 100,000 good deeds for you. وَحَطَّ عَنْهُ مِئَةَ أَلْفَ سَيِّئَةٍ. And Allah will erase 100,000 sins from your book of A'mal. وَرَفَعَ لَهُ مِئَةَ أَلْفَ دَرَجَةٍ. And on the Day of Judgment, Allah will elevate your status 100,000 times. These numbers, they may seem great, too much. But for Allah, they're not too much. For someone that is generous, whose generosity is unlimited. What is 100,000? What is a million? It doesn't mean anything. Allah Azza wa Jal, His compassion, His generosity, and the good that He owns is unlimited. So why would He be greedy, stingy with what He has to give? When Imam Hussein gave everything for Allah, everything. He gave all his children. If he had another 100 children, he would sacrifice all of them for Allah. Is it too much for Allah to give him something like that? To honor him in that way? Of course not. So this is one of the etiquettes of drinking. So before you begin, say Alhamdulillah. And after you have your drink, before you begin, say Bismillah. And once you end, say Alhamdulillah and Ya Hussein. Just add another phrase, another 2 seconds. So that's the first benefit of making this a habit, is the reward. The second benefit, and this is beautiful, of saying Bismillah before you eat, Alhamdulillah after you finish, is that the food, we are told, the food that you eat will not cause digestive problems for you. It will not harm you. Now, I'll talk about this in a couple of minutes, what exactly that means. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, Imam Ali, went on the minbar one day and he said these words. ضمنت لمن سمى الله عز وجل على طعامه ألا يشتكي منه. He says, I, Ali ibn Abi Talib, guarantee anyone, if you say Bismillah before you eat, the food will not harm you. The food that you're eating will not harm you, will not cause digestive problems. Now, we could assume that the Imam is speaking about our, our normal food that we eat. Don't go and, eat something terrible, something very unhealthy, and then, wallah, Imam Ali said it's not going to harm you. No, meaning just your food that you usually eat, and sometimes it may harm you, right? Sometimes it'll cause bloating, it'll cause some digestive problems, it'll cause indigestion and whatnot. The Imam says, I guarantee you that that food will not harm you. This is the guarantee of Imam Ali. So the hadith says, a man by the name of Ibn al-Kawwa. Ibn al-Kawwa was a Khariji. Khariji, those that used to be with Imam Ali alayhi salam, but then after the battle of Siffin, they detested and they turned against Imam Ali, and they eventually fought against Imam Ali alayhi salam. So this was not a man who was a fan of Imam Ali alayhi salam. He would always, we have many traditions, he was like the annoying guy that was always objecting to Imam Ali. When the Imam says anything on the minbar, he would challenge the Imam. He would always try to corner the Imam, but nobody can challenge Imam Ali. So he stood up, he said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I have an objection. What is it? Yesterday I ate some food, I said Bismillah before it, but that food harmed me. And he's trying to tell Imam Ali, your theory is flawed, it's wrong. You said, I guarantee whoever says Bismillah and then eats, then they will not be harmed. Last night, I had some food. Probably he had some food, kibaniya, I don't know what Ibn al-Kawa used to eat. And it harmed me. So what do you mean? Your theory is not right. Imam Ali alayhi salam is much more clever than Ibn al-Kawa. Look at how the Imam replies to him. He told him, how many types of food did you eat? More than one, right? He said, well, yeah. The Imam told him, did you say a separate Bismillah for each type of food or no? Now, what does each type of food mean? Like I said, to us, we have two, like we have fish and we have meat, right? We have, for example, kebab and we have hummus. Whatever it is, you have 2, 3, 4 types of foods on the table. For each type of food before you ate, did you say Bismillah? 3 types, 3 colors, 3 Bismillahs. 4 types. Remember, the more you eat, the higher the responsibility is. If someone doesn't want to say too many Bismillahs, maybe you should make your food a little more modest. But it's just one Bismillah, right? So the Imam told him, you probably ate more than one type of food in that meal, and you only said one Bismillah. Ibn al-Kawa said yes. So, and the Imam told him, when you have more than one type of meal, more than one type of food in your meal, for each type of food, designate a specific Bismillah. And then I will guarantee you that it will not cause indigestion. Now, how many of us have tried that? Barely. I don't even remember if I've tried it before, even though I try to remember, right? I need Brother Calvin Carl to remind me. Excellent reminder. Before I eat my meal, before I eat my food, we need a reminder because we're always distracted and we forget. And even if you remember to say Bismillah, but oh, remember the hadith of Imam Ali. You know, there's two types of food, three types of food. There's hummus, there's baba ghanoush, there's fattoush, there's tabbouleh, and there's kebab, and there's dijaj, right? And there's chicken. That's four types. Say four, Bismillah. How difficult is that? And the Imam says, I guarantee you, the Imam is challenging everyone. I guarantee you that it will not harm you. Do you want to take on Imam Ali and try to disprove him? Good luck. Many people tried and they ended up with terrible fate. So anyway, never try to challenge Imam Ali alayhi salam. I would not recommend that. Do that at your own risk and discretion. And there's another tradition from Al-Imam, from Al-Imam al-Sadiq, where he tells us, he gives us some more insight. Because I know many people think, well, just say Bismillah and the food won't hurt you. Well, it depends how you eat and what you do. The Imams, for them, one Bismillah was enough because they probably would have just one type of meal, one type of food in their meal. But now that we have, alhamdulillah, evolved and we have advanced so much and we eat so many different types of colors and foods, and we love the 5-course, 7-course, 8-course, 15-course, right? What is it? They keep on bringing you tray after tray after tray, and you don't know sometimes how many there are. So should I, get full now, or should I save it for the best? So as we evolve and change in our habits, obviously we have to modify some of these habits of eating and increase it. So in another tradition, something similar happens where a man comes to an Imam al-Sadiq and he complains to him of some indigestion problems, bloating or whatever, from the food that he ate. I mean, he sees it as it's not normal. I just ate the normal food that I always eat, but my stomach is giving me problems and whatnot. So the Imam tells him, did you talk during your meal? Of course. Who the heck doesn't talk during their meal? Well, now with our smartphones, we don't talk that much. We're just all staring and watching and scrolling. But obviously, yeah, I was with somebody and I was having a conversation. The Imam told him, every time you speak, and it's not dhikr of Allah, whatever it is, and then you go back and take another bite, say Bismillah again. So it's as if when you talk, worldly talk, anything that is not dhikr of Allah, it's as if that Bismillah, you kind of negated it. You kind of slowed it down. You slowed down its potent or its effect. So the Imam tells him, every time you talk during your meal, and then you have another bite, say Bismillah again. So that teaches you, subhanAllah, see how the Imams used to discipline their Shia. That teaches you, first of all, don't talk too much when you eat. Unless it's dhikr of Allah. And if you want to talk, fine. But for each sentence you say another Bismillah. So that will teach me to either, one of two good things, talk less, one Bismillah will be enough. Or if you're talkative and you love chatting, fine. But say Bismillah more. And he said this will protect you from that indigestion and all those other problems. So two things. Number one, for each type of food, a separate Bismillah. For each time you speak, it's as if you invalidated that Bismillah. Say another Bismillah. Still easy. It's not difficult, is it? And there's a tradition from Imam Ali alayhi salam where he's narrated saying, Ma udkhimtu qat. He said one day, I have never suffered from indigestion in my life. Never. Choose your foods, make sure it's the right foods. But even then, sometimes we'll notice it just gives you upset stomach, it causes indigestion, it causes some issues in your digestive system. Some very basic things. We're not talking about diseases or anything. The Imam says this has never happened to me in my life. Never. That's very rare. I don't know anybody that can claim that. Sometimes, yeah, it might be my fault. I ate some unhealthy food, but sometimes you notice, no, it's just my normal food. It could be the healthy food that I eat all the time. But I don't know why today it's like so heavy on me, on my stomach, and it's causing all these issues. So the Imam said, this has never happened to me. So someone asked him why, because you're ma'soom, Allah chose you, and you just have the special status from God. He says, no. The Imam says, ما رفعت, listen carefully, ما رفعت لقمة إلى فمي إلا ذكرت اسم الله عليها. He says, every bite and morsel that I eat, I say Bismillah before it. You and I, if we say one Bismillah before we begin, alhamdulillah, we've made our day. We did our wajibat for the whole day. I can rest for the entire day. Imam Ali says, no, I go the extra mile. Before every bite, I say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Not only the reward and the constant remembrance of Allah and the benefits that come with that, but he's like, I've seen the results. I have never ever had any digestive problems in my life. Never. You'll read many traditions where Imam Ali would be sick, Imam Ali's eyes would be hurting, Imam Ali's head. But digestive problems, just never ever has that happened to me. Why? Because I know the remedy. Bismillah. Before every bite. And that's why, brothers and sisters, when you really think about it, and we mentioned this over and over again, these etiquettes of eating and drinking, they work for our benefit. Allah Azza wa Jal wants us to make these as habits so that we benefit. We live a more comfortable life, physically and spiritually. And thus it's narrated that Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam said one day on the minbar, Ma ahsantu li ahadin qat. It's like, I've never done any kind act to anybody. I've never done any kind act to everybody. It's like someone going on the minbar saying, I'm such a selfish person. I just serve myself. وَلَا أَسَأْتُ إِلَىٰ أَحَدٍ. Nor have I done anyone evil. So the people says, فَرَفَعَ النَّاسُ رُؤُوسَهُم. People are like, what is he talking about? This is Ali ibn Abi Talib. It's like, I haven't done good to anybody. If Imam Ali says that, then who can ever claim that they've done any act of kindness or good towards anybody? So they asked him, what are you talking about? Yeah, you haven't done any evil, we get it, but you haven't done any good act for anybody? The Imam read this verse. In ahsantum, ahsantum li'anfusikum. Wa in asa'tum, falaha. The Quran says, if you do good, who will be the first and greatest benefactor of that good? You. When you do an act of kindness to somebody, you are serving yourself. The benefits that come with it in the dunya and in the akhirah. So the Imam says, all the good deeds that I have done, I am the one that will benefit. So I was serving myself. So I can't claim that, well, I was helping all these people. Yeah, you were helping them, but you were benefiting more than whatever they got. The blessings that Allah give you for helping people in this life and in the afterlife outweigh any good that person, the recipient, receives. So that's why he says, you are only serving yourself when you worship Allah, when you do these good acts. And this is exactly what applies here. Someone may say, oh, saying Bismillah before every meal and salt, and then if I say something, if I talk, I'll have to re-say it. And if there's, fine, it's too complicated for you, don't do it. Don't do it. But who's going to suffer? Who's going to miss out on the benefits? Me. Yes, it does require effort, but very little effort, brothers and sisters. Some of us are willing to take to endure much more effort and struggle much more to stay healthy and to just live a good quality life, right? We'll go to the gym for an entire hour, hour and a half. That's good. We'll deprive ourselves from so many types of foods. I won't eat at this time. I won't. So people just their lives, so many laws that they confine themselves to in order to stay healthy. Just add a couple of more things. They're very simple, but you are the one that will benefit. They're not time consuming, very simple, receive great reward, and the benefits, Imam Ali alayhi salam guarantees them for you. So, having said this, brothers and sisters, I end my series of the etiquettes of eating and drinking in Islam. Like I said, there's many more. There's many more that you can delve into, and you'll find hundreds of traditions from the Imams of Ahlul Bayt that they teach you. Even your posture, for example, the posture of the Imams and the Prophet when they used to eat, how Allah Azza wa Jal loves you to eat. So remember, like, eat with your hand, wash your hand before you, even the way that you sit. The way that you sit when you are eating, this is something that the Imams used to speak about. And so many other things. And if you really want to delve into this and you want to learn about this more, I did teach a class a couple of years ago in our seminary here, Islamic Dietary Law, where I went through all these etiquettes and much more, much more. You can find that on hujjaseminary.com. You can register, and all the courses you'll find there. That's if you want to delve deeper into this. But I think for this setting and for this crowd and for this program, this is inshallah enough, because we don't want to overburden ourselves with too much things that we end up not doing any of them. So these are 6 simple things, brothers and sisters. Make them a habit, and trust me, brothers and sisters, if you haven't already, you will start to feel the difference in your life, the impact, the effect, spiritually and even physically. And let's recap real quick before I end. Now let's see how many of them do you remember. The first etiquette was what? Wash your hands. 1. Ahsant. Wash your hand before and after you eat. Number 2 was begin every meal with just a bit of salt, just a bit, and end with just a bit of salt. Number 3 was what? No, that was today, number 6. Number 3, that was a couple of weeks ago. What was number 3? Ahsant. Eat with your bare hand, and specifically try with your right hand. And that's, no, the hadith doesn't say that, but I would assume that this specifically applies to people who are right-handed. Now, if you're left-handed, maybe we could assume that it's better to eat in your left hand, or no, maybe just the right hand is just better for everybody, so there's something spiritual about it. So that was number 3, right? What was number 4? That was number 5. That was also kind of part of number 5, because I grouped them all together. You're missing one. Kind of. Well, slowly, it kind of has to do with it. That was my interpretation of why. But the actual etiquette was prolong your meal. Prolong your meal. So instead of having a 5-minute meal, 10-minute meal, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And we mentioned the different reasons. Allah will not ask you about those minutes versus all the other minutes and hours of your life. Allah will ask you. This is an exception. It's a time that you're safe as long as you're not sinning. And then we said, yes, one reason, one benefit of this, prolonging your meal, is so that you slow down your meal. And then we group that with you slow down your eating. And we said there's many benefits that come with that. And we grouped all of these together, and some of you mentioned it. So eat slowly. Don't eat too fast. Give your stomach the opportunity, the time to digest and to register that you are eating and getting full. And with that, we also said make your bites, your morsels smaller, so it's easier for you to digest them and chew your food very well. These are all mentioned by the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. And many of them, today, science, medicine, proves the importance and the significance of these small yet very impactful acts on our lives. And then finally, we said, begin with Bismillah and end with Alhamdulillah. And if you're drinking water, add Assalamu ala al-Hussein or Ya Hussein after you drink, specifically, or even more importantly, if it's cold, it's a cold drink, cold water. And we said, in addition to that, if you want to go the extra mile, then for each type of food, say an additional Bismillah. And every time you speak in the middle of your meal, then repeat Bismillah. All of this, brothers and sisters, is very easy. I don't think it will complicate your lives much, and you probably already do a lot of them. But the benefits are so great. It's not worth, brothers and sisters, letting go of such great benefits when it's so easy. This month is the month of Sha'ban. Today is the first day of Sha'ban. Sha'ban is the month of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's a month that the Prophet used to love. He used to spend this month worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's kind of like our Ramadan. The Prophet would have a pre-season, a pre-Ramadan, and that was his Sha'ban. We're only 1 month away from the month of Ramadan. This is where he would warm up for the month of Ramadan. He would fast many days. He would worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, istighfar, dua. And he would always urge his followers, everybody, to try to prepare yourself for the month of Ramadan. Start reading some Quran. Fast once a week, once every 10 days. Do some istighfar. Just get into that spiritual mode, that spiritual atmosphere, that spiritual mentality and mindset, so that when Ramadan comes, khalas, you're ready. So many people, the first day of Ramadan, I noticed this, it's like a complete change in their life because it's so swift. Their lives are upended. They'll tell you the first day of fasting was miserable. They won't tell you that, but that's how they feel because it's just the same routine every day, and then all of a sudden you have to do a 180-degree change overnight. Start slowly. That's what Sha'ban is there for. Fast once a week, once every 10 days. Start doing some very small good deeds, a'mal, whatever you do in the month of Ramadan. Do 1/4 of that, 1/5 of that. This is where we warm up the pre-season. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. May Allah Azza wa Jal grant us all the shafa'ah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam through the blessed month of Sha'ban and through the deeds of some of the deeds. May Allah give us tawfiq to perform some of the good deeds of the month of Sha'ban. It's recommended every day istighfar, every day, 70 times astaghfirullah rabbi wa atubu ilayh. Won't take you more than 2-3 minutes, but the benefits, once again, the purification that it will have on your soul is great. You have a question? Say.
Could we pray the Fatiha and the dua for my son Ahmed for the doors to open for his career? I
Yes.
don't know what it's called in Arabic. She told me, but I don't know.
Inshallah, yes, no problem. I'll end inshallah with Fatiha. So anyway, may Allah Azza wa Jal bless you all, accept your a'mal, and grant you all the best. And remember these beautiful words from Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam, especially when you're having that delicious meal today, when you're watching the Super Bowl, right? Isn't it today?
Yes.
What time does it start? 6:30, ahsantum, which is how many minutes after Salat al-Maghrib? 10:15. Well, that is not that clear. The Super Bowl is much more clear and obvious what time it is. But anyway, pray before the Super Bowl. You'll have about 15 minutes because after that, بعد خلاص, you'll go into another world. Before you fly into that world of football and NFL and whatever, pray your salah and then enjoy, inshallah, your meal. And remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even when you're watching the Super Bowl. God bless you all. Do you have a questions?